Hi, I'm Erin Selfe, Vice President of Information Technology at Pennsylvania Lumbermens Mutual Insurance Company. Proud to say we are the largest and oldest mutual insurance company servicing the wood and building materials industry for the last 125 years, and we're proud members of the World Millwork Alliance. This year's been like no other in almost every respect, and cyber threat has been no different. So today I'll share some of the current cyber threats and what you can do to protect your company. We also have one of our claims managers, Ray Rogers, who's going to talk about some real-world incidents, and our underwriting manager, Steve Hicks, who can explain some basics of how cyber coverage works. With a mixed workforce, hackers are preying on the fact that many employees are in a different environment and are easily distracted working in home offices. This is prime time for somebody to take their eye off the ball and click an obvious phishing link and enter your password into a phony website. So with your keys, the hacker can then do many bad things, such as logging into your system and launching a program that encrypts all your company data, leaving you vulnerable to a hefty ransom to get it back. So what can you do? One of the easiest and most effective tools is education. Educate your staff on how to recognize a phishing scam and educate them on how to report a suspicious event. There are tons of free videos available, especially every October when it's the Department of Homeland Security's Cyber Awareness Month. There's content posted everywhere. Next, be sure you have multi-factor authentication over your critical systems, and most importantly, your email system, where there are a ton of goodies. It forces us to provide two pieces of information to get into a system, such as a password and then a text message with a code. So with MFA, even if you give up your credentials in a phish, a hacker would have to have that second code in order to actually get into the system and exploit them. So most cloud-based systems, including Office 365, come bundled with MFA. It's there, it's available, you just have to turn it on, and it's pretty easy to do that. And finally, maintain your systems with patching and backups. Remember, smart people are being paid a lot of good money to find holes in operating systems and then turn them over to hackers to immediately exploit them. So with backups, you can recover your data if you're attacked by ransomware without paying ransom. If you don't have an IT department, a local IT service can help you get this set up pretty quickly. So remember, educate your staff, use MFA, especially to access your email system, and maintain your systems with patches and backups. Now, I'll turn the mic over to Ray Rogers, our claims manager. Ray has seen all kinds of disasters, and cybersecurity disasters are no exception.
Hi, my name is Ray Rogers, and I am the property claims manager here at Pennsylvania Lumbermens Mutual Insurance Company. I'm here to talk to you today about the two biggest issues I've seen in cyber losses this year: ransomware claims and misdirection of pay losses. The cyber policy does cover ransomware claims. This happens when your server is hacked by a cyber criminal, and they lock the entire server down and threaten to delete everything on there unless you pay the ransom. They gain access to your server by using phishing emails is the most common way. One of your employees usually will click on a link inside of an email that looks like it's an official work email, and that will open a portal for the cyber criminal to gain access to your server. Once they lock the entire server down, when you come in the next day and power up your computers, you'll have a message on there, usually a website or a message with a phone number or an email address that says, you have X amount of time to issue payment or ransom, or we're going to wipe your servers. They usually always want the ransom to be paid in Bitcoin as well, which is hard to get. At this moment, you should immediately report the claim. We bring in cybersecurity experts who will immediately get attorneys involved. All right. They can usually negotiate the fee down by 50%. Sometimes we even have the encryption code to make the whole process a lot easier. We will also handle the Bitcoin transfer to the other party if needed. And what we will also do is the encryption key that they give you to unlock the server, we will investigate that key and make sure that it contains no malware. So when you enter the key, malware slips in and these people can actually gain access to your system, anywhere from 6 months to a year later and go through this all over again. So please, if you have a ransomware claim, report the claim immediately. The second type of claim I'd like to discuss with you are misdirection of payment claims. These claims occur when cyber criminals and hackers clone the email of a vendor our insurers do business with, and then monitor the email for weeks. They watch the orders come in from our insured and different companies, and then they wait for the next order to be placed. The cyber criminals then clone the email, clone the invoice, and they change the payment routing number, send the invoice out to our customers. What happens is, day to day, our customer pays that invoice thinking they settled up with the vendor, when in fact they've just paid the cyber criminal. I've also seen a couple of cases where cyber criminals have cloned the emails of some CFOs for our insureds and then sent payment direction to either their controller or somebody in their accounting department to pay X amount of money to this routing number, and the money is moved, and it's moved to a cyber criminal account. Currently, there is no coverage available for these types of losses under our insurance policies. We recommend the following procedures be put in place to keep this from occurring at your business. A few examples are, if a routing number changes from one invoice to another, call your vendor on the phone to confirm that routing number has changed. Okay. If you email them, the cyber criminal may pick up that email, confirm that has been done, and then you don't think anything of it and you continue to pay the cyber criminal. I've seen that happen. Not a good thing. Call them on the phone to confirm. You could also set up a process that works for you and your vendor for confirmation of any changes involving payments before invoices are issued with a change in the routing number. If you receive an invoice with a change in the routing number and those procedures were not followed, call the vendor and let them know what happened. To safeguard against misdirection of payment scams involving senior executives, establish a procedure with your bank for approving or moving large amounts of money. Any payment over a certain dollar amount must be approved by the CFO or another leader in the company with financial authority. Often the bank calls their cell phone to confirm that is a legitimate transaction before releasing the payment. A couple of our insurers have put this into place, and it has worked for them so far. Last but not least, if you receive or suspect a misdirection of payment scam from a vendor, alert that vendor immediately to let them know, because our email has been compromised and other people are probably receiving those false emails and invoices as well as yourself. Cyber criminals will keep inventing new ways to scam, steal, and sneak into your systems. Please communicate regularly with your IT service departments or contractors on how to stay one step ahead of them. Being proactive on this minimizes your chance of being victimized. And now I'm going to turn this over to one of our underwriting managers, Stephen Hicks, who will discuss cyber coverage. Take it away, Steve.
Thanks, Ray. It'd certainly be nice if this was something we could say the woodworking and building materials industries don't have to worry about. Unfortunately, we've seen that's not the case. So, as a risk management tool, we turn to cyber insurance. And when you're thinking about cyber insurance, the first question to ask is, do you have it? This is an important question to ask because cyber insurance is still relatively new. At this point, I would expect most insurance professionals to review cyber insurance with you. That doesn't mean that it's included in all packages. In fact, over half of written premiums are on standalone policies. These standalone policies are very good for addressing the exposure for big companies with a ton of data and huge limit requirements. But for small and mid-sized businesses, other carriers have begun to include cyber coverage as part of their package offerings. Again, it's not universal, and it's something that you want to check on. So you've checked, number one, and that takes us to question number two. If you have it, what does it cover? Since cyber insurance hasn't been around forever, it's not standardized in the industry yet. That means you're going to want to take a look and review what your policy actually covers. Let's take a quick look at some of the things that are typically covered. Now, we can group these into three pretty broad categories of events. The first is data breach. It's the most common. Other things we can lump into computer attacks. And then there are types of fraud. So the first one here, data breach. Think about the Home Depot credit card breach or Target or any number that have hit the news. These events involve a lot of response expense and time. 48 states have notification requirements, and they also require things like credit monitoring potentially to affected individuals. There can be fines. So there's a lot of expense on the response side. And then following that, there's always the threat of class action or other lawsuits as a result of the breach of data. And so that's why you want to make sure that you have both pieces to this coverage. The second one here, computer attack, lumps a few things together. The first one, cyber extortion, is something we see in the woodworking and building materials industries a bit. Your data becomes locked by a malicious code and requires payment for the release of that. And how do you deal with that? Now, some of the resources we're going to talk about can help, but it's also good to have coverage. Other viruses and malicious code can destroy data, systems, cause loss of business, or public relations issues. So these costs can be covered through your cyber insurance. You want to make sure that it covers all of these things, or at least the ones that you feel that you need. The last one here involves the liability piece, network security liability. What if your system becomes compromised and then does damage to a third party? And that's potentially something you're going to want to have coverage for as well. And the last one here, fraud. Misdirected payments is a common variety and coverage that can be obtained. A lot of times in the news, that's social engineering. If it's email, you might hear it called phishing. Essentially being tricked into sending goods or payments to a fraudulent location. That's not normally covered under the normal insurance policy. There's a clause, voluntary parting, that excludes that. But this coverage can be obtained, and it's not a part of all policies, so you want to check. And then for our industry, for the woodworking and building materials industries, does it include goods or is it only money? If misdirected shipments, are they covered or just payments? On the other side there, computer fraud, if someone gets access to my computer and sends things to fraudulent locations, is that covered? Those are things you want to look at. Those coverages can be included in cyber insurance. So when I review what's covered, I tend to look for how broad is coverage. And that takes us to the third question, which is, do I have meaningful limits at affordable premiums? Significant time and expense goes into recovery from a cyber attack. A study by Zogby Analytics showed that 72% of businesses that were hacked spent over $5,000 in investigation, restoration, and recovery. Over a third spent more than $50,000. And here's a breakdown of that study that we can take a look at. Keep in mind, this doesn't include time spent responding or reputation considerations. So, like many other risks, the old adage, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, remains true. Still, accidents happen, and so when we're reviewing coverage, the question, do I have meaningful limits at affordable premiums, is important. And that'll take us to the fourth and final question. Am I looking at coverage, or is it actually a program? Erin mentioned a few things you can do to help avoid a loss, but in 15 minutes, we can barely scratch the surface of some of the best practices in cybersecurity. So this brings me to the last major consideration. Are you looking at cyber coverage or a cyber program? And the difference is simple. A cyber program goes beyond cyber coverage. It provides cyber coverage and goes beyond by providing support services to policyholders. Many programs provide all kinds of risk management resources to help small businesses prepare and respond effectively to data breach and cyber attacks. But most small businesses don't have the time, resources, or desire to stay on top of the rapidly evolving cybersecurity landscape. And this is where the benefits of a program can be so valuable. Program websites may include online training, a response roadmap, current industry articles, best practices, and white papers. Programs also offer things like toll-free hotlines for access to experts in recovering from cyber extortion and data breaches. They may offer free computer diagnostics by phone, and they often have experienced claims and defense specialists. So when I'm reviewing cyber insurance, I consider these four basic questions. Thank you for your time today. And with that, I'll turn it back over to PLM's Vice President of Information Technology, Erin Selfe.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned a few things today about how to beat the hackers with best practices in cybersecurity and cyber insurance coverage. Now, today we have two speakers from Selfe Investments. Our first is Michael O'Keefe, who's the Chief Investment Officer and Global Head of Investment Strategy for Selfe. Michael leads the creation of investment insights on markets and strategic and tactical asset allocations and opportunistic and thematic investment ideas, as well as managing a team comprised of market strategists, portfolio construction consultants, and behavioral and quantitative finance specialists. Today, Michael will be presenting on the overall macroeconomic environment and what Stifel sees as opportunities and issues moving forward. Next is John Mcnamara. John is a managing director in Stifel's Diversified Industrials Investment Banking Group. Mr. Mcnamara is responsible for originating and executing transactions in the building products and durable goods industries. He's completed more than 60 mergers and acquisitions, public offering and private placement transactions, generating more than $10 billion in consideration. He's considerable experience advising light building product manufacturers and distributors. Today, John will be discussing industry trends and M&A and capital market environments for building products companies. Welcome, Mike and John.